The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
So much to say, so little time. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. We've been focusing recently a lot on inter-party, I guess, squabbles and focusing on a lot of minutia. And I'm coming up for air. We're coming up to a 30,000 foot level to look at politics in general. But then I do want to discuss one last thing about the inter-left squabbles that have been going on. I call them squabbles, but they are important. And you will see why they are important. I'm sure you already know why. But as we discuss the news, just the news today, you will see why it is so important that we really get it right on the left. That's an interesting phrase. So Nikki Haley just resigned as the UN ambassador, or rather she's going to resign at the end of this year. And one of the things, I actually want to play a clip because Fox News actually says it best. They don't realize what they said, but they said it best. Listen in.
We know that this is a surprise. There's no question about that. I mean, the president and Nikki Haley have, been on opposite sides of the fence on occasion, but by and large, they've been on the same page. And Nikki Haley, as UN ambassador, certainly has voiced her support for the president and his foreign policy views. So
there it is. Nikki Haley, who in some media outlets is being cast as a moderate Republican, actually agrees on most issues with the president. There have been few, if any, issues that they disagree on. And her leaving the UN ambassadorship, ambassador to the UN, doesn't really represent anything other than her own personal political ambitions that are in lockstep with the Republican Party, with Donald Trump. Ben Sasse made all of the noise about being concerned about Brett Kavanaugh, but at the end of the day, he's just a regular extremist Republican. Jeff Flake made all the tears, made it seem as though he was the reasonable person, but at the end of the day, he's just another extremist Republican voting in a extremist conservative. It's very likely that Nikki Haley is going to assume run for the South Carolina Senate position, because they're assuming that Lindsey Graham is going to take Jeff Sessions' position, which makes perfect sense because Lindsey Graham has been groveling at the feet of Donald Trump. All of them are an entire cabal, a cadre of extremists who get the luxury of dressing in $1,000 suits, $2,000, $3,000 suits, and giving the appearance as though they are anything more but radicals. But at their core, they are radical extremists, including Nikki Haley. They're radical extremists in terms of what they want to do to this country, where they want to take this country back to. They have both aspirations for what they can do in America, but they also have dreams and fantasies of repeating what was done in America. Conservatism in the United States of America is an extremist ideology, no question about it. And they use terroristic tactics politically, political terrorism, in order to get what they want accomplished. Now, there is a huge problem with Democrats in this country. And that number one problem is that they don't realize what the score is. They do not realize what time it is. They don't realize that they're dealing with political terrorists who will stop at nothing to get what they want accomplished. They will burn down every institution. They will create violence themselves. Somebody had to remind me. While Republicans are lamenting the protest of the people, of particularly women who are protesting Kavanaugh, who quote unquote stormed the steps of the Supreme Court, and now all of these senators like Mitch McConnell are fearing for their lives. While this is the news in the news cycle this week, somebody reminded me of what Republicans did in 2000. And I'm going way back past the Tea Party, because you could look at the Tea Party revolts and see how wild and animalistic and barbaric they are. right? You could see the bloodthirsty rage that soaks, that they're drenched in. But I want to go back to something specific on the election night when they were attempting to recount the ballots in 2000. You had paid political Republican operatives in $1,000 suits storming the offices of supervisors of elections across Florida, terrorizing the people, terrorizing the officials trying to count. And they were attempting to keep them from recounting, helping to do their little bit in ensuring that George W. Bush became president. This is well documented. There's actually video of it. You could go online. I think Fahrenheit 9/11 actually did a great breakdown of who those individuals were and which Republican politician that they worked for. But they used violence. They used quote unquote protest, but they used the threat of violence not to fight against oppression, which most of us are willing to do. We are willing to use the violence of protest, since we're just going to generalize and say all protests are violence. That's what the news always says. That's what Republicans are saying right now. They're saying that these protests are violence. And when in reality, it is our constitutional protected right. And we are doing so in order to fight against oppression. Systemic injustices. We're doing it to fight against this system that marginalizes so many people. But where and when do you see Republicans doing it? Conservatives doing it? You see them using the threat of violence and using protest in order to seize power, not to fight against systemic oppression, or not to fight against any type of oppression, not to fight for anyone's rights, but in order to seize power. What we are dealing with is a radicalized, fundamentalist, and extremist form of conservatism that has been this way for almost 40 years, and Democrats don't know the score yet. Of course, you had Joe Manchin, who was he sealed the deal for Brett Kavanaugh, drunken Kavanaugh. He sealed the deal for him. And so I don't know why anybody expected him to be anything other than a Republican, because that is what he is. But at the core of this, you have several problems. You can't analyze what's going on right now and have a singular solution to it. There are multiple problems that stem all the way from someone who people think is moderate, like Nikki Haley, and that impression that she is a moderate. That is, I don't care how you cut it. There is not one single moderate Republican in power right now or on the bench to get in power. On every level, the Republican Party has been radicalized. They are hyper partisan, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. Now, that's just one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is that you have feckless Democrats in power who either don't realize it or don't care that they are fighting against. They're not even fighting. Chuck Schumer needs to be put out of power because he could not put the pressure on Joe Manchin enough to keep him in line. Chuck Schumer should never have been in the minority leadership, period. Because he still has something in his head that makes him think that it's remotely possible to work across the aisle. There is no such thing as bipartisanship. Not when you're dealing with political terrorists. Not when you're dealing with people who will see this entire country burn just to get a single political win. They have been implementing a long-term strategy, and they just executed it. And now it's up to Brett Kavanaugh to carry it the rest of the way to make sure that he does everything from his perch on the Supreme Court to ensure that there are nothing but conservative majorities in the foreseeable future, as well as enshrining a theocracy in this country. In the form of forcing the most fundamentalist and evangelical interpretation of the Bible down the throats of America in general through the force of law. Because who's going to tell them it's unconstitutional when the bench, the Supreme Court, are the arbiters of what is constitutional and what is not. And they have historically been on the wrong side of what the Constitution actually says. So for anyone who says that this is being extreme or being I'm being dramatic, the fact of the matter is we have a precedent in this country. In fact, we have more precedent of this country doing the wrong thing than doing the right thing. And so it is not only feasible, but it's entirely plausible that, no, it is expected. That is why they put him there, to carry out the conservative agenda in this country, not to be a fair arbiter of what the Constitution, of what legislation and what rights are constitutional and not. And the other side of the problem, as I mentioned, it's not only Democrats who don't understand this, it's also the media who likes to portray someone who is calm and has a mild demeanor and speaks kindly and softly, like Nikki Haley, as a moderate. But Nikki Haley is just as much a fundamentalist, radical, conservative extremist as anybody else. Donald Trump just revealed the monster, that he took the veneer of civility away from the Republican Party, and now you can see them for what they really are. So the problem is twofold. Number one, what conservatism has become in this country. And number two, a cabal of feckless Democratic leadership, as well as feckless Democrats in general, who are not prepared to fight this. The strangest message that I honestly did not expect this message to come from this person. And while she has historically been a part of the problem, what she says here is not untrue.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
Absolutely true. The truth coming from Hillary Clinton, followed up by something that is absolutely wrong, right? She couldn't say an entire phrase that was correct. She had to add something that was completely wrong. The first sentence, absolutely true. This next sentence is absolutely wrong.
That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and or the Senate, that's when civility can start again.
Wrong. Insert the gif of Donald Trump saying wrong. No, that's the perfect formula for you to be taken to the bank again by the Republican Party. You think the Republican Party cares if they lose one cycle? They have been waiting and working on this for 40 years. They understood exactly what they needed to do in their loss to Barack Obama, so that they could get exactly what they wanted done. They understood that underneath the veneer of multiculturalism in this country is a deeply seated hatred of anything that's not white. They understood that they could play to this. Donald Trump understood this more than anyone else, and he led them to this place. And now they've moved into a place where they don't really care if they lose one election. I'm sorry, they haven't moved there. They have been there. They don't care if they lose one election. Hillary Clinton, they will look at your victory and say, let's filibuster. Let's just filibuster the hell out of everything. If you go back into this thing trying to be civil, they will filibuster everything. And if you're trying to be civil, that means you're trying to respect the institutions of the United States, which means you're going to say, oh, well, we lost this one because they want to filibuster. You know, that's the type of incompetence that helped us get where we are. Your first sentence was spot on. Your second sentence was the exact problem that we're facing. She vacillates back and forth from saying something that's absolutely true. And it's poignant for the purposes of this conversation, because the absolute truth is that you cannot be civil with a political party that is so focused on the destruction of everything that you believe in. Let's start right there. They have no greater desire in their lives than to destroy the entirety of progress made in the 20th century. They want to undo completely anything that's left of the New Deal. They want to undo it. They want to strip away any safety net. They want to undo it. You still have, for all of my black people all of my people out there who are like, Ben, you need to focus on white supremacy. You do realize that the Republican Party, there are still people in the Republican Party who absolutely believe that the Civil Rights Act was unconstitutional. The intellectual precursor for that was Barry Goldwater. It is written in his Conscience of a Conservative. If you want to see where they actually can go in what they believe, there is no limit how far they would go to repeal Roe versus Wade, to repeal Obergefell versus Hodges, to repeal the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, in order to get America back to a time where there was no threat to white power in this country, white male supremacy and white male Christian supremacy in this country. They are even making the quote unquote intellectual argument against Islam as being designated as a religion. So Hillary Clinton is both right and completely wrong with this statement. You cannot be civil with them. And you most certainly cannot be civil once you get back in power. You have to crush conservatism. You have to crush conservatism because what they stand for is your destruction, the destruction of every liberty and right that you ever fought for in this country. What makes you think for a moment that you could play around with these people? What makes you think for a second that you could be kind to these people? I don't care how mild-mannered they appear. I don't care how civil they behave. What they want is most certainly uncivil. What they want is draconian. What they want is fascistic. What they want is to make sure that you, who are not a white Christian man, will never become again and never again become a threat to white male Christian supremacy in this country. That's what they want. So this last part before I kick it over to the patrons, this is, if you want the full episode, go to patreon.com/the BPD show, but I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here because I want this public, and I honestly might even split this into a separate segment to make sure that people can digest it. I'm going to, in a roundabout way, offer a fig leaf, an olive branch rather, to who I have derided as the dumb left. I'm going to call you the misguided left, and I'm going to just for a brief moment offer an olive branch. I don't expect you to accept it, and whether you accept it or not is completely indifferent to me. I'm indifferent to that. I'm doing this for me because I have been overly hostile, and I become that way when I engage with what I believe to be ignorance. I am genuinely allergic to ignorance, and the reaction from that allergy is for me to be hostile. When the fact of the matter is, we just have a very serious difference of opinion in terms of what is most urgent right now and how we accomplish our goals. It is a very serious disagreement, not something that we can simply explain away. We can't just say, oh, we just, let bygones be bygones. No, we see things so fundamentally different in terms of what is most urgent right now, as well as even some of our outcomes. See, even some of the outcomes we disagree on. And so instead of me berating you because of my natural reaction to what I believe to be ignorance, you don't believe what you're engaging in is ignorant. I do in a very fundamental way. And it's not me calling you stupid. It's me looking at what you say your goals are for some of you and realizing that you're undermining your own goals with useless contrarianism. And the reason I'm coming from this vantage point of a piece is this may not even come off as an olive branch. It might come off as just some olive oil I'm throwing around, right? It may not come off as a peace offering. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm just saying for me. The reason I'm doing this, I was watching one of my old videos last night when I was in Boston before I moved to Atlanta. This was good, going on 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And I said the same exact thing that I said over the last month. I said it there in Boston. Now, I want to point that out in terms of Republicans being the best example of neoliberals in this country, of Republicans fighting for things that are they directly challenge, or they are a direct threat to what you want. And so anything that benefits republicanism or conservatism in this country is, to me, especially when your goal is to get goals, to accomplish things that they want to destroy, to me is pure ignorance. and to rally behind people who just tickle that vein in your ear that you like. You just like to hear that. You hear that from your YouTube commentators. To me, it's just another level of everything that we say about Fox News, everything we say about the MSNBC crowd, everything we say about religion going amok, run amok. You know, they're just telling you what you want to hear, and they're leading you astray. So from that perspective, I honestly believe what the misguided left is engaging in, the social media left, the YouTube left, in a very particular subset, I believe it is ignorant. And in a time where the Republican Party is running up the scoreboard for corporatism, the Republican Party is running up the scoreboard. I mean, you thought it was bad underneath Barack Obama. You haven't seen anything yet. And to turn a blind eye to it, to me, is insanity. It is ignorance. And it is problematic. And the reason I'm emphasizing it in this way is simply because I don't want you to think that I suddenly have had a change of heart. No, what I believe has been my belief for a very long time. You can go back and check videos from 2016, 2015, 2014. I'm very consistent. And what I believe is that if we don't stop conservatism in this country, we will never get one step closer to progressivism in this country. I also believe that it is a fun. I'm trying to choose the most accurate word without venom. I'm trying to not put venom in this clip. I want you to understand that I still disagree with you to the point where I would rather block you than engage with you, because I am allergic to what I believe to be ignorance. However, the fundamental disagreement is more important than my reaction to ignorance and the venom that I've been spitting over the last couple of weeks. That being said, here's something that I also believe about the misguided left, is that you guys don't understand politics. You do not understand politics. Now, we have to divide this up. You have the misguided left, and you have the left that knows exactly what they want. And that left that knows exactly what they want, they have no qualms about telling you that they want to see the destruction of the American empire, even if that means the destruction of America in general. They're not looking to just contract the American empire. If the sum total of their goals, the contraction of the American empire abroad, leads to the destruction of the United States here domestically, they are perfectly okay with that. And they see that as a moral victory, and they see that as a good thing. Never mind the complete and abject destruction that will cause, the countless lives that would be lost, the starvation that would ensue, the supply chain processes that we are so dependent on just to live. There's a part of the left that is 100% okay with that. That left I don't engage with either, and so be it. We have a fundamental disagreement on our goals, right? Some of us want to see the contraction of American empire, but don't want to see the destruction of America, because we live here. Our children grow up here. We thrive here, and we struggle here. This is the only place that most of us even know. And so for us to say we're perfectly okay with the complete destruction of America is completely asinine. For me, I mean, for you, it makes perfect sense. And that's your great grand goal. So be it. A fundamental disagreement in our goals. But then there's the other left that doesn't want to see the destruction of the United States. They do want to see the contraction of the military industrial complex, or the complete dissolvement of the military industrial complex. And they want to see the overthrow of capitalism, or at a minimum, they want to see a social democracy where the people are given the resources from the military industrial complex in order to thrive, for everyone to thrive in this society, this current society. I mean, there's a wide range of that left. And so you can't pigeonhole the left into one specific category. And that's fine. The point is if your goals exist anywhere in that spectrum, you're going to have to engage in electoral politics. You cannot achieve a single thing that you want by directly choosing to not participate, or by navel gazing yourself. Okay, let me be a little nicer than navel gazing. By unintentionally marginalizing your own goals. See, I could do it. I can do this segment without putting venom in it. You unintentionally marginalize your own goals and your own voice by engaging in useless contrarianism that builds up to nothingness, that doesn't build up into any political movement, that doesn't build up into any type of electoral challenge, that doesn't even put people in position to challenge the feckless Democrats. And this is what I'm coming full circle to. And this is why we fundamentally disagree. It's because it has become a commonly accepted belief in progressive, in this misguided left circle, that the only way to win their goals is to start a third party or to help the Green Party, which most of them don't ever get around to doing. They just talk about it. Or to do what Jimmy Dore told you to do, which was to, just don't participate. Just let the Republicans win so it could get so bad. This accelerationism, let it get so bad that the people revolt. And what have we seen? Is that none of that works. None of it. In the meantime, you have organizations that are actually organizing and using the current power structure, this two-party power structure system that everyone who believes is you're just a tool for the two-party system. Well, you know what? What have you gotten done? Let's start there. There's so much commentary. I guess Venom is getting ready to come in. I'm sorry, guys. The Venom is coming. I guess I just take the fig leaf off the table, the olive branch off the table. But what have you all accomplished? I can tell you what DSA has accomplished. I can tell you what DFA has accomplished. I can tell you what any number of organizers, I can tell you what Justice Democrats, for better or for worse, has accomplished. I can tell you what Our Revolution has accomplished. I can tell you what all these organizations have accomplished, and they accomplished it by pushing the current power structure, pushing it to the left, pushing them on other issues, holding the line, but most importantly, running candidates. And you know how they run those candidates? For the most part, the overwhelming majority, I think there have been maybe a handful. I don't want to say one or two, but there have been a handful of Green Party candidates, but they have been overwhelmingly run. Those races have been run as Democrats. Why? Because it's not about who's in charge of the Democratic Party right now. It's not about supporting them. It is quite literally about putting them out. This is what I'm getting at. I took all the long road to help you get here. If you want to get rid of Chuck Schumer, you're not going to do it unless you actually put somebody in the Senate that can challenge him. Because if you're waiting on a third party to actually do it, it's never going to be done. Unless you're just perfectly okay with sitting around and allowing the Republicans to do everything that you hate so much. Allowing them to do it to you because it's better for them to do it to you than for them to do it to you tenfold, mind you, than to have corporate Democrats in there doing it to you twofold or onefold, or onefold would be accurate in this description. But this is why I call you the misguided left. Now, honestly, you're not going to listen. You're not going to hear me. And that's totally cool. You're going to go and get you're going to go to church and get your religion from Jimmy Dore. And that's perfectly fine. But what I've come to realize is that you have unintentionally marginalized yourself. You have disenfranchised yourself while the rest of us are trying to get work done. And so this is why I think it's so important for us to not engage. And that's why I'm still going to block people because, on social media, it's a useful tool, but it's also like the dregs of society. It's better for us to not engage, because we have a fundamental disagreement on how we get our goals accomplished. I believe that your goal is your method towards your goal is nothing more than self-disenfranchisement, that you're who you're going to vote for. I guess you're going to vote for Bernie if he makes it, but if he doesn't make it, you're not going to vote for anybody. But then actually, who are you going to vote for your congressional seats, for your Senate seat? Who are you going to vote for in your Senate, your state house and your state Senate? Who are you going to vote for in your commission, your local commission? Do you even know who's on your local commission? Right? Politics. It's like politics 101, man. 101. And I know this is nothing new. This didn't just come about. It's just it's like the renaissance of this type of anti-participation, this apathy, where apathy is wrapped up into pseudo-intellectualism. And from Jimmy Dore, it's not even pseudo-intellectualism. It's just a bunch of ignorance. But at the end of the day, you have absolutely no means. You have no path towards your goal except for just shouting at the wind. And in this case, the wind is social media. You have absolutely no method of accomplishing your goals. Meanwhile, the Republican Party is running up the scoreboard on everything that you hate. And not only are they running up the scoreboard, they're bringing you the worst version of it that you can imagine. You realize conservatives dream of a day when every penny collected by the government is used for war and nothing more. That's literally a slogan from like the 1800s. Or late 1700s, at the revolutionary time. War and not 1 cent more. That's their dream. They dream of a time that late stage capitalism is not threatened by a socialist revolution because you're so worried about subsistence living. And because they have the security infrastructure to protect them from any type of revolution. I mean, for all of you accelerationists, you think you're going to beat the American government? I mean, look at what happened in Syria. You think it's going to go any differently here in the United States? You think it's going to go any more swimmingly? It's just going to be, we've taken over. Then what is your plan for supply chain management? What is your plan for feeding 350 million people? Or let's say 200 million people are left. What's your grand plan? What's your strategy for that? And while you all sit around dreaming and fantasizing of a revolution and navel gazing your way out of participation, conservatives are doing to you 10 times what the worst corporatist Democrat that we currently need to get rid of. See, that's where we agree. And I don't think you can't see the forest for the trees, because we absolutely agree that we need a clean house on the current Democratic Party. But my people, how the hell are you going to clean house with the current Democratic Party if you don't even think people like Ocasio-Cortez are worthwhile supporting? Now, because Jimmy Dore told you not to. It is a self-defeatist. It is self-sabotaging. You have zero path to accomplish any of your goals, and I'm just too smart for that. And more than me being too smart for that, I just don't have time to commit my political participation to, hell, that is literally why I didn't run for office. Because I felt as though in office, there are too many pitfalls that make you, to help you to not accomplish things. That's what I believed. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do something that I know I can accomplish things on a day-to-day basis. Now, maybe I was right. Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. Somebody's going to, no. Let me tell you why I'm wrong. You know why I'm wrong? Because look at everything Republicans have accomplished. The reason we can't accomplish anything is because we have a series of a set of feckless Democrats in power. And I'm 100% about replacing every single one of them. Primary everybody. But how the hell are you going to primary somebody when you think it's more important for them to have the most perfectly pure progressive politics to the point where they have one misstep that you don't agree with and you write them off? That type of politics is not politics. It's useless contrarianism that is going to amount to nothingness, that's tacitly allowing and permitting and helping, aiding and abetting the extremism of conservatism to run amok in this country and to bring you tenfold of what you hated about the worst corporate Democrats. That is the perfect definition for the misguided left. And that is as much of an olive branch as I can extend, because I am still extremely allergic to ignorance. And it looks like that's a total of 30 minutes. So that's all I've got for today. This is the full episode. If you're not a patron, you got lucky. You got a full episode out of me. But go to patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Thank you.